The journey begins not at the destination, but in the quiet decision to leave the familiar behind. It starts with the gentle exhale of breath as you settle into your seat, the soft plush fabric holding you comfortably, and the realization that for the next while, there is nowhere else you need to be. You are aboard the Limited Express, the sleek train known as the Romancecar, gliding effortlessly away from the dense, energetic heart of Tokyo. The city, with its infinite layers of steel and glass, begins to unravel outside your wide window. The tall gray towers slowly give way to lower rooftops, and then, gradually, to the patchwork greens of the suburbs. There is a hypnotic rhythm to the rails, a steady, low hum that vibrates gently through the floor, grounding you. It is a sound that whispers of progress and motion, a lullaby of transit. As the train picks up speed, the world outside blurs into a watercolor painting of motion. You watch the transformation of the landscape. The orderly grid of the metropolis softens into the rolling curves of hills. The sky seems to expand, stretching wider and turning a deeper, cleaner shade of blue. You are traveling southwest, toward the mountains, toward the ancient volcanic lands of Hakone. Time feels different here. Inside the cabin, the air is cool and still. The murmur of other passengers is low and respectful, a backdrop of hushed tones that blends with the rhythmic clack of the wheels. You allow your eyes to lose focus, simply observing the passing scenery without needing to catalog it. Rivers flash by, their surfaces catching the afternoon sunlight like scattered diamonds. Rice fields, symmetrical and verdant, reflect the clouds above. The tension in your shoulders begins to dissolve, melting away with each mile that puts distance between you and your daily responsibilities. Soon the train slows, gliding into the gateway station of Hakone. The doors slide open, and the air that greets you is distinct. It is fresher, carrying the scent of damp earth, cedar, and distant river water. This is the threshold of the mountain. You transfer now to a smaller, more intimate mode of travel, the mountain railway. This train is charming and old-fashioned, a bright red carriage that looks perfectly at home against the deep emerald of the forest. The ascent begins. This is not a rush to the top, but a slow, deliberate climb. The train moves in a zigzag pattern, navigating the steep slopes with a patient determination. Every few minutes, the train halts, and the driver walks to the other end of the carriage to reverse direction, pulling you higher up the switchbacks. It is a dance with the mountain, a respectful negotiation of the terrain. Outside the window, the forest is dense and lush. Depending on the season, you might see the vibrant blues and purples of hydrangea bushes lining the tracks, heavy with blossoms, or the fiery reds and burnt oranges of Japanese maples in autumn. Below you, a river carves through the ravine, its sound a constant rushing white noise that filters through the glass. The higher you climb, the more the modern world feels like a distant memory. You are entering a caldera, a massive, ancient volcanic crater that nature has reclaimed and softened over hundreds of thousands of years. The trees here are tall and ancient, their roots gripping the rocky soil, their branches forming a canopy that filters the sunlight into dappled patterns on the forest floor. At the final station of the railway, you step out and board the ropeway, a gondola lift that will carry you over the peaks. As the gondola lifts off the ground, a sensation of weightlessness takes over. You float upward, the ground dropping away beneath your feet. The view opens up, revealing the grand scale of the landscape. To your left, if the clouds are kind, the majestic cone of Mount Fuji might reveal itself, standing solitary and snow-capped against the horizon, a silent guardian of the region. As you crest the ridge of the mountain, the scenery changes dramatically. You are passing over Oakudani, the great boiling valley. The lush green creates a stark contrast with the bare, rocky earth here, where plumes of white steam rise continuously from the ground. It is the breath of the volcano, a gentle reminder of the heat that slumbers deep beneath the crust. The steam drifts upward in lazy, swirling columns, dancing in the wind before dissipating into the atmosphere. It creates a dreamlike quality, a veil of mist that softens the jagged edges of the rocks. Watching the steam rise is mesmerizing. It moves with a fluid grace, white against the blue sky, white against the gray stone. The gondola begins its descent on the other side of the ridge, and there, spread out below you like a dark mirror, lies Lake Ashi. The water is a deep, calm blue, filling the bottom of the caldera. It is the jewel of Hakone, still and serene. From this height, you can see small boats moving slowly across the surface, leaving delicate wakes that fan out and vanish. On the shore, a vermilion gate stands in the shallows, its bright red pillars reflecting on the water, marking the presence of a shrine hidden in the cedars. The anticipation of arrival settles in your chest, warm and comforting. You know that soon you will be down there, walking along the shore, perhaps dipping your hand into the cool water. You know that a traditional inn awaits you, with the promise of a hot spring bath drawn from these very mountains. The mineral-rich water will warm you to the core, washing away the last remnants of fatigue. But for now, you simply float in the gondola, suspended between the sky and the earth, watching the steam rise and the lake shimmer, completely at peace in the embrace of the journey. The journey down from the heights is smooth and steady, the gondola carrying you closer to the indigo waters that wait below. As the cabin glides into the station, the doors part with a soft hush, welcoming you to the shores of Lake Ashi. Stepping out onto the solid earth, the air feels different here, It is heavier, richer, laden with the moisture of the lake and the ancient breath of the forest. The coolness of the mountain elevation settles on your skin, refreshing and clean. A gentle contrast to the slumbering heat that radiates from deep within the volcanic crust you left behind at the summit. You begin your morning walk along the edge of the water. The path is lined with towering cedar trees, their trunks thick and rough with age, standing like silent guardians that have watched over this caldera for centuries. The ground beneath your boots is soft, a tapestry of fallen needles and damp earth that muffles your footsteps, enhancing the profound quiet of the morning. There is a stillness here that commands respect, a natural pause in the rhythm of the world that allows your own heartbeat to slow, syncing with the leisurely pace of the lake. To your left, the water stretches out, a vast expanse of deep blue that turns to slate gray where it mirrors the low-hanging clouds. The mist clings to the surface in wisps, drifting lazily like ghosts of the steam you witnessed earlier on the mountain peaks. It blurs the line between the water and the sky, creating a dreamlike horizon where the mountains on the far shore appear as soft, watercolor silhouettes, their jagged edges smoothed by the vapor. You continue walking until the path curves, revealing the vermilion treasure of Hakone, standing majestic and solitary in the shallows is the great floating Torii Gate. Its bright red pillars rise stark and bold against the muted tones of the water and the forest, a vibrant declaration of sacred space. You find a large, flat stone near the water's edge and sit, allowing yourself a moment of quiet contemplation. Here, the sensory details of the lake come alive. You close your eyes for a moment to listen. There is a hypnotic rhythm to the water, a gentle slap-slap of small waves curling against the base of the red Torii Gate. It is a consistent, soothing sound, the heartbeat of the lake lapping against the stone and wood. It speaks of endurance and patience, of water that has touched this shore for thousands of years. The scent of the air is specific and grounding. It smells of damp moss that clings to the stone lanterns lining the path, earthy and green. It mixes with the mineral tang of wet stones and the faint, sweet decay of old wood from the forest floor. Every breath you take feels restorative, filling your lungs with the purified air of the mountains. Opening your eyes, you watch the interplay of the elements. Far across the lake, you can still see the faint traces of volcanic steam rising from the vents in the distance. The steam drifts upward in lazy, swirling columns, dancing in the wind before dissipating into the atmosphere. It creates a veil of mist that softens the landscape. Watching the steam rise is mesmerizing. It moves with a fluid grace, white against the blue sky, white against the gray stone. It serves as a gentle reminder of the energy that pulses beneath this tranquil surface, the geothermal warmth that powers the hot springs waiting for you later this evening. But for now, there is nowhere else you need to be. You watch a small boat cut a silent path across the center of the lake, its wake fanning out in a perfect V-shape before vanishing back into the glass-like surface. The reflection of the Torii Gate wavers slightly in the ripples, the red mingling with the deep indigo of the water. A profound sense of peace settles over you, as heavy and comforting as a weighted blanket. The worries of the world beyond these mountains feel incredibly distant, unable to cross the ridgeline. Here by the water, there is only the rhythmic sound of the waves, the smell of the cedars, and the beauty of the steam rising to meet the clouds. You take a deep breath, holding the serenity of Hakone inside you, ready to carry this stillness through the rest of your day. The morning light filters through the paper screens of your room, waking you gently with a soft, diffused glow. You stretch, feeling the restorative effects of the mountain air filling your lungs, carrying with it a crisp coolness that energizes your spirit. Today calls for a journey upward, away from the lakeside stillness and into the sky. You leave the quiet shores of Lake Ashi behind, making your way toward the base of the Hakone ropeway, ready to ascend into the heart of the ancient crater. As you step into the spacious glass gondola, the doors slide shut with a hushed click, sealing out the world and leaving you suspended in a quiet bubble of observation. The cable car begins its ascent, moving with a smooth, steady rhythm that feels more like floating than riding. You watch the ground fall away. At first, you glide over a dense carpet of cedar and cypress trees, their green tops swaying slightly in the breeze like a rippling ocean of emerald. The perspective shifts, and the world below becomes a tapestry of nature, vast and unbroken. Higher and higher you climb, the mechanical hum of the ropeway barely audible, a low vibration that travels through the floor and grounds you. The air pressure changes slightly, a subtle pop in your ears that signals your arrival at a different elevation. Then, as the gondola crests the ridge of the mountain, the landscape transforms instantly. The lush greenery vanishes, replaced by the stark, majestic drama of Oakudani, the great boiling valley. Below you lies a world of raw, geological power. The earth here is exposed, painted in shades of charcoal gray, rust orange, and sandy beige. It is a landscape that feels prehistoric, a glimpse into the very foundations of the island. From this height, you can see the white plumes of volcanic steam rising from the vents, billowing upward in great, silent clouds against the rugged mountain slopes. The steam moves with a mesmerizing slowness, drifting and curling, thick and opaque one moment, then thinning into a sheer veil the next. The gondola docks gently at the station, and you step out into the open air. The atmosphere here is different, charged with the warmth of the earth. A faint mineral tang hangs in the breeze, the scent of sulfur and iron. It is not overpowering, but rather a grounding aroma, an olfactory reminder that the ground beneath your feet is alive and breathing. You walk along the designated paths, the wooden railings guiding you safely through this active geothermal zone. To your left and right, the steam vents hiss softly, a continuous exhale from the mountain. You pause at a viewing platform to listen. Beneath the sound of the wind, you hear the low, rhythmic glug-glug of the boiling mineral springs. It is a deep, liquid sound, heavy and consistent, like a heartbeat. The water bubbles up from deep fissures, gray and milky, heated by the magma far below. Watching the water churn and the steam rise is hypnotic. It creates a rhythm that slows your own breathing, syncing your pulse with the slow, geological time of the valley. Far in the distance, if the day is clear, the iconic silhouette of Mount Fuji stands guard, its white-capped peak floating above the horizon. But even if the clouds have gathered, the view of the valley itself is enough to hold your attention. The steam clouds drift across the jagged rocks, softening the harsh lines of the stones, creating a shifting dreamscape of white on gray. You make your way toward a small wooden structure where steam rises in thick, inviting columns. Here, a local tradition awaits. You purchase a small bag of the famous black eggs, known as kuro tamago. These are ordinary eggs that have been boiled in the sulfurous, iron-rich waters of the valley. The mineral reaction turns their shells a deep, matte black, stark against the white steam. Holding one in your hand, you feel its intense warmth radiating through the shell, a borrowed heat from the volcano itself. Finding a quiet bench overlooking the valley, you sit and carefully peel the egg. The black shell cracks away to reveal the smooth, pristine white interior. The contrast is striking. You take a bite, the flavor rich and savory, perhaps a little more intense than a standard egg, imbued with the essence of the minerals. Local legend says that eating one of these eggs adds 7 years to your life. Whether or not it is true, in this moment, you feel a deep sense of vitality. You are nourished by the warmth, surrounded by the majestic steam, and seated on the shoulder of a living mountain. As you finish your snack, you watch the steam columns dance in the wind one last time. They rise and fade, a perpetual cycle of release. The sun begins to dip lower, casting long shadows across the rocky terrain, turning the steam from white to a soft, glowing gold. You feel heavy with relaxation, the sensory experience of the valley settling into your bones. It is time to descend, to return to the calm waters of the lake, carrying the warmth of the great boiling valley with you into the approaching twilight. Leaving the rugged, steamy heights of the volcanic valley behind, you board the ropeway for a gentle descent toward the shimmering surface of Lake Ashi. As the gondola glides downward, the landscape shifts dramatically. The stark grays and yellows of the sulfur fields give way to a lush, enveloping canopy of deep green. The air grows cooler, heavier with moisture, and rich with the earthy perfume of damp soil and vegetation. By the time your feet touch the ground near the water's edge, the intensity of the boiling valley feels like a distant dream, replaced by the serene stillness of the lakeside forest. You find yourself standing at the entrance to a path that feels less like a road and more like a cathedral of nature. This is the ancient Cedar Avenue, a preserved section of the old Takeda Road that once connected Tokyo to Kyoto. Here, the modern world falls away completely. Stretching out before you is a majestic corridor lined with towering Japanese cedar trees known as sugi. These giants were planted over 400 years ago to shade weary travelers from the summer sun and protect them from the winter snows. Now they stand as silent guardians of history, their immense trunks rising straight and true toward the sky like pillars of a living temple. You begin to walk beneath them. The path is soft underfoot, cushioned by centuries of fallen needles and dark, fertile earth. The silence here is profound. The thick trunks, rough with age and textured bark, absorb the sounds of the outside world, creating a cocoon of quiet. High above, the dense evergreen branches knit together, filtering the sunlight into dappled beams that dance across the ferns on the forest floor. This is the practice of Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, simply letting the atmosphere of the woods wash over you, slowing your heart rate and deepening your breath. Every inhalation brings the deep, resinous scent of sugi wood into your lungs. It is a clean, grounding fragrance, spicy and fresh, that seems to clear the mind of any lingering clutter. You pause to admire the roots of a particularly massive tree. They gnarled and twisted over the ground like ancient riverbeds, covered in a blanket of moss. You reach out to touch it. The moss is vibrant emerald green, cool and damp against your fingertips. It yields softly to your touch, a tactile texture that feels like heavy velvet, holding the moisture of the lake and the morning mist. As you continue your slow, deliberate stroll, a sound drifts through the trees, faint and melodious. It is the muffled chime of a distant temple bell. The sound is low and resonant, vibrating through the heavy air before fading into the rustle of the leaves. It does not disturb the silence, but rather deepens it, marking the passage of time in a place that feels timeless. The bell invites you to let go of the hours, to simply be present in this corridor of ancient wood and shadow. The avenue eventually leads you toward the water, guiding you to the sacred grounds of the Hakone shrine. The forest opens up slightly, revealing flashes of the vermilion red architecture contrasts beautifully with the green of the trees and the blue of the sky. You approach the main shrine building, tucked securely at the foot of Mount Hakone. The atmosphere here is thick with reverence. You approach the stone basin filled with clear mountain water, using a wooden ladle to pour cool water over your hands. A ritual of purification that refreshes your skin and spirits. From the main shrine, a long flight of stone steps descends through the woods directly to the water. You follow them down, the anticipation building with every step until you reach the floating torii of peace. This iconic red gate stands in the water itself, framing a view of Lake Ashi that is breathtaking in its simplicity. You step out onto the stone pier, the water lapping gently at the base of the gate. Looking out through the red pillars, you gaze across the vast, calm expanse of the lake. In the distance, the mountains rise in layers of blue and gray. You can see the faint, white wisps of volcanic steam rising from the valley you visited earlier. But from here, they look peaceful, like clouds born from the earth. The steam dances over the water, mingling with the mist that naturally clings to the lake's surface. You find a quiet spot to sit by the shore as the afternoon light begins to soften. The sun dips lower, turning the surface of Lake Ashi into a sheet of hammered copper. The wind dies down, and the water becomes glass, reflecting the red torii gate and the dark silhouette of the cedar forest behind you. Here, between the ancient trees and the deep waters, a heavy wave of relaxation rolls over you. The scent of the cedar lingers on the breeze, and the memory of the warm, black egg and the boiling valley merges with the cool tranquility of the lake. Your breathing matches the slow rhythm of the tiny waves against the shore. You are safe, grounded by the roots of the giant trees and soothed by the sacred waters. As the twilight begins to embrace the mountains, you feel ready to rest, carrying the timeless peace of Hakone into your dreams. Leaving the gentle lapping waters of the lake shore behind, you begin a slow ascent into the highlands that cradle the valley. The journey upward takes you away from the water's edge and deep into the embrace of the mountains, where the air grows crisp and carries the scent of pine and ancient stone. The road winds through a corridor of tall cedars, their dark green canopy filtering the afternoon light into soft, dappled patterns that dance across the path. You arrive at a secluded highland retreat, a sanctuary built from timber and glass that seems to grow naturally out of the hillside. The architecture is simple and elegant, designed to dissolve the barrier between the indoors and the wild nature outside. As you step across the threshold, the sound of your footsteps is softened by woven tatami mats, and a profound silence welcomes you, broken only by the distant, soothing sound of wind moving through the treetops. A host greets you with a silent bow and guides you to a low wooden table near a wide picture window. It is time for a traditional tea service, a ritual designed to slow the passage of time. You watch as hot water is ladled from an iron kettle, the steam rising in a thin, straight column. The water is poured over vibrant green matcha powder in a handmade ceramic bowl. The sound of the bamboo whisk against the clay is rhythmic and hypnotic, a gentle scratching that speaks of care and precision. When the bowl is placed in your hands, the pottery is warm and rough against your palms. You lift it to your lips, inhaling the grassy, earthy aroma of the tea. The liquid is rich and frothy, warming you from the inside out. As you sip, you look out through the glass. From this high vantage point, the view of Hakone is transformed. You can see the dark, glossy surface of Lake Ashi far below, and beyond it, the rugged slopes where the earth breathes. Drawn by the view, you step out onto the open-air terrace. The transition is immediate and invigorating. The mountain air here is cool, laden with moisture, a refreshing contrast to the warmth of the tea you just enjoyed. You walk to the railing and gaze out at the panorama. In the distance, the volcanic valley sends up slow, white plumes of vapor. It is a mesmerizing display of the Earth's primordial heat, meeting the cool, mist-laden air. The steam does not rush. It drifts lazily, curling and twisting as it rises, joining the low-hanging clouds that cling to the peaks. The landscape before you is a study in softness. The sharp edges of the ridges are softened by the atmosphere, creating an ethereal sight of mountain lines blurring into the sky. It is difficult to tell where the rock ends and the heavens begin. Layers of indigo, slate, and charcoal fade into a pale, milky gray. You watch the steam dance over the distant water, a silent performance that has continued for thousands of years. Turning from the railing, you make your way to the private open-air bath, the onsen, tucked away in a garden of moss-covered stones and ferns. The bath is hewn from dark rock, filled with water drawn directly from the thermal springs deep beneath the mountain. Steam curls off the surface of the thermal pool, thick and inviting, creating a veil of white that hovers just above the water. You step out of your robe and into the cool air, then slowly lower yourself into the mineral bath. The sensation is exquisite. The water is hot, a heavy, enveloping warmth that penetrates deep into your muscles, instantly melting away any remaining tension. You sink lower until the water reaches your chin, letting your head rest against the smooth, cool stone of the basin's edge. The contrast is absolute. The air on your face is brisk and fresh, smelling of rain and wet leaves, while your body is suspended in liquid heat. You close your eyes, listening to the gentle trickle of water flowing from a bamboo spout into the pool. It is a steady, musical sound, a lullaby of nature. The minerals in the water make your skin feel smooth, and a feeling of weightlessness takes over. You feel buoyant, held up by the sacred waters of Hakone. Every breath you take is deep and slow, filling your lungs with the clean mountain oxygen. The steam rising from the bath wraps around you like a soft blanket, isolating you from the world, creating a private cocoon of peace. As you soak, the light begins to fade completely. The sky turns a deep, velvety blue, and the first stars begin to appear through the gaps in the steam. The mountains are now just dark silhouettes, silent guardians watching over your rest. You feel a profound sense of connection to the earth, to the heat that warms the water, and to the stillness of the high altitude. Heaviness settles into your limbs, a comfortable, drowsy weight that signals the end of the day. The heat of the spring has quieted your mind and soothed your spirit. You remain there for a long while, floating between the water and the mist, suspended in a state of perfect calm. When you finally decide to leave the water, you move slowly, carrying this deep warmth with you, ready to drift into a sleep as deep and tranquil as the lake below. The morning following your restorative soak brings a clarity that feels almost crystalline. You wake feeling renewed, the heaviness of travel completely washed away by the mineral waters of the previous night. Today is a day of gentle observation, a quiet farewell to this caldera sanctuary before your journey continues. You make your way down to the shores of Lake Ashi, the great body of water that rests in the heart of the mountains. The air here is different from the enclosed warmth of the bath. It is expansive, carrying the chill of the altitude and the moisture of the low-hanging clouds. You walk along a cedar-lined path where the roots of ancient trees knot together like old, wise fingers gripping the earth. The scent of pine and damp soil is grounding. Ahead, the lake opens up, a vast mirror of deep indigo reflecting the sky. The water is calm, disturbed only by the occasional ripple of a koi fish breaking the surface or a duck paddling near the reeds. There is a profound silence here, a vastness that invites you to breathe deeper, matching the rhythm of the gentle waves lapping against the stone embankment. A boat awaits at the pier, a vessel that moves with a slow, deliberate grace. You step aboard and find a spot near the railing where the view is unobstructed. As the boat pushes off, the engine creates a low, rhythmic hum that vibrates softly beneath your feet, a soothing white noise that drowns out any remaining chatter in your mind. The shore begins to recede, transforming the towering trees into a texture of rich moss-green velvet draped over the hills. Out on the open water, the scale of Hakone reveals itself. You are floating in the crater of an ancient volcano, a cradle of water held by the earth. To your left, you see the steam rising. It is the breath of the mountain, white plumes of vapor drifting up from the geysers of high above on the ridge. It It is a reminder of the heat that lives just below the crust, the same heat that warmed you last night. Here, however, it is distant and visual, a delicate dance of white steam against the gray rock and the green forest. It looks like the mountain is sighing, releasing its tension into the cool atmosphere. As you look toward the horizon, the clouds begin to part. They shift slowly, peeling back layers of gray and white to reveal the silent guardian of the region. Mount Fuji appears, its snow-capped peak hanging suspended in the sky, perfect and conical. It feels closer than it truly is, a majestic presence watching over the lake. The white snow creates a stark, beautiful contrast against the deep blue of the sky and the dark water below. Seeing the mountain feels like a gift, a moment of serendipity that anchors you in the present. The peak is motionless, a symbol of eternal stillness, while the steam vents below it represent the constant, living energy of the earth. The boat docks on the far shore, and you disembark, finding a quiet bench near the water's edge. You take out a small sketchbook and a charcoal pencil. You do not need to be an artist to appreciate the movement of graphite on paper. You simply wish to capture the feeling of the shapes. You trace the line of the horizon, the curve of the mountain, and the vertical rise of the steam. The sound of the pencil scratching against the paper is hypnotic. You focus on the colors before you, the palette of the day. The water is not just blue. It is a deep, layered indigo that suggests immense depth. The trees are not just green. They are moss, emerald, and olive, shifting as the clouds pass overhead and change the light. You sit there for what feels like hours, though time seems to have lost its relevance. You watch the clouds drift across the summit of the mountain, sometimes obscuring the peak, sometimes framing it. It is a slow, cinematic display of nature. The wind rustles the leaves of a nearby maple tree, adding a soft, dry whisper to the soundscape. As the afternoon begins to wane, the light softens, turning the steam from the vents into pillars of gold and rose. The temperature drops slightly, prompting you to wrap your coat tighter around yourself, enjoying the cozy contrast between the cool air and your warm layers. You close your sketchbook, running your hand over the rough texture of the cover. You have captured a piece of this stillness to take with you. The sun begins its descent, casting long shadows across the lake, turning the indigo water to a dusky violet. The world feels balanced here. There is the fire of the volcano and the ice of the snow, the movement of the wind and the stillness of the water. You feel that balance settling within your own chest. The anxiety of the outside world feels very far away, unable to cross the protective ring of mountains that surround you. You stand up slowly, your body relaxed and loose. The boat ride, the fresh air, and the quiet creativity have lulled you into a state of heavy, pleasant fatigue. You turn back toward your lodging, walking slowly along the shore one last time. The rhythmic lap of the water says goodbye, a gentle pulse that matches the beating of your heart. You carry the image of the silent, snow-capped guardian and the rising steam in your mind, a visual lullaby to revisit when you close your eyes. Night falls gently over Hakone. The steam continues to rise in the darkness, unseen but present, and the lake settles into a glass-like stillness. You lay your head down, the memory of the deep indigo water filling your thoughts, supporting you, holding you up as you drift away. The mountain watches, the steam breathes, and you float into a deep, dreamless sleep.